Hi class, Mr. Callan here for Crim 7. Follow-up to our last video. I didn't get to Dennis Nowicki. We ran out of time, so here's the follow-up to that. We'll talk about his traits of what he believes makes a good cop. And first up, his enthusiasm, and I disagree. So look, we don't work at Starbucks, and even if we did, it doesn't matter. Think about, as a student, you have work to do, but do you always have to be enthusiastic about it? No, but you need to get your work done. Okay, same as cops. So look, we're all human. I don't have to show up and be enthusiastic about the work. I just have to set, whatever feelings I have aside and just be a professional that day. Make sure that I'm not bringing my personal influence to work. And that's really what matters most. So I don't have to show up happy. I don't have to show up excited. I just have to show up and I have to have my mind right and go do the job. Handle the calls in a non-biased manner. Now that doesn't mean you have to be happy, joyful with everybody, nor do you have to be angry, grumpy with everybody. Okay, oftentimes, those two ends of the spectrums don't do any good at all. It's much better to fall in between, right? Straight up neutral where people can't read you. They can't tell if you're happy. They can't tell if you're sad. They can't tell if you're mad. They can't tell if you're, what you are, because you're falling right in the middle. And that's probably the best place to be for a cop working patrol. Okay, don't give the public any little sense of, ammunition, so to speak, to say, well, this cop was rude because, he was angry. If they can't tell if you're having a bad day, then they don't know what to think of you. So you just show up and make sure that your emotions are shut down and you provide the service necessary. You don't have to be enthusiastic about it. You just have to go do it and get the job done because that's what you signed up for and you're getting paid for, right? So be happy about that. You get paid every 2 weeks with benefits and a pension, right? What's not to like? So good communication skills. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, right? Your communication skills will get you in trouble and they will quickly get you out of trouble and then back in trouble again. Who knows, right? Depending on what type of communicator you are. That's verbally, okay, and that's expressively, the expressions on your face and your mannerisms and your body language, right? Also the written side. Written is very important, but in terms of interacting with people, the verbal communication, the nonverbal, your body language, that's going to signal a lot, right? Which can be good and could be and can be a negative. So it can be good because if it's a situation where control is necessary, and typically it is on critical incidents. If you get somebody who's looking to maybe wants to fight or run or cause a disturbance that while you're there, if they kind of see through your informal, your unspoken body language, right, that's not a good idea for them to do that, chances are you're going to have a good job of controlling that. We call that command presence, something we teach in the academy and you have to learn on your own, right, by your mannerisms, going through field training and just experience in general. Verbal communication, most definitely. The words that you choose when you talk to people, your tone of voice, the manner in which you say it. Pick your spots for sarcasm. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. As you get to know me, you'll find out that I'm a pretty sarcastic person, so I've always have to be aware of that when I'm working patrol, really have that in the forefront of my mind to, really screen the words that come out of my mouth sometimes, okay, because there's a time and a place for it. So communication skills definitely, right? And here's the deal. It's developed by way of practice. So for those of you that you were born with a cell phone in your hand and your vision is limited to the 18 inches between your nose and your screen, you got problems, okay? You set that phone down and learn how to talk to people because you can't text message your way or social media your way through a police call, right? Through a call for service, right? Not when somebody's having the worst day of their life. They need to see you and see that you're present, and they deserve that, okay? And so the only way to learn it, to do it, to practice it. So, start now. When we get back to class and we're doing face-to-face classes, it's a good time to practice. Believe it or not, we all have a fear of public speaking, myself included, right? I don't like being in front of class. I do, but what I'm saying is I get nervous, right? I get nervous making these videos for you. But guess what? You just have to jump in and do it, right? Doing it gives you more confidence. And the more you know, the more confidence you'll have, more skills you'll have, more able you will be. Okay, and that leads to a competent police officer. So let's work towards that. Good judgment, most definitely, comes back to discretion. Also, some things that are learned. Some of you, maybe didn't grow up in the best environment. I'm right there with you. So my kids know that I don't always know the right answer to a problem, but I certainly know what not to do. I don't always know what to do, but I know what not to do. All right, and some of you are in that same situation. So think back on those times. That'll help you develop your discretion and your decision making. And making good judgments, and that could be in driving. That could be in different calls for service. When it's time to use force, when it's time to use discretion. Do you make an arrest? Do you give a warning? All of that type of stuff. So, sense of humor, yeah, absolutely. You've seen it in me. All right, you haven't seen some of the dark humor, but you will. Not from me, maybe not for appropriate for class, but you will once you start working. You have to have dark humor. It gets you through. You have to, be able to just accept things as they come. One of my mechanisms for survival is I never try to rationalize something that's irrational. I think that causes your brain to cramp, and I think it really causes emotional damage to people. So, there's no way to rationalize the murder of another human being. There's no way to rationalize any form of child abuse. It's completely irrational, and I'm not going to waste my time rationalizing it. I'm just going to do what I have to do to handle that call for service, make sure that the victim is in a better place by the time that I leave, and move forward from there. Okay. Creativity, most definitely, that comes back to discretion. How well do you know the law? How well do you know your policies? How well do you know your community? How well do you trust the person you're interacting with to get creative with, right? And come up with some different solutions. Most definitely for problem solving, when we have a lack of resources in an agency, sometimes we have to be creative, okay? So absolutely, I think that's great. Self-motivation, definitely. Don't rely on your agency to train you. Don't rely on your agency to provide all of your equipment. They're going to provide you the basics, basic training, basic equipment. Anything else, you need to go provide yourself. You need to have the motivation to do that. You need to have the motivation and desire to take your vacation time and go to training classes that you pay for. It's all a tax write-off, by the way. But you're investing in yourself. You're investing in your future, whether it's a promotion or just developing a high level of competence and being a great officer. And I would have more pride in that than anything else. Knowing the job and the system really goes back to the self-motivation part, where you're constantly learning case law, new policies. I'll tell you early on, I've always been a fan of case law since my undergrad days. And it was a retired FBI agent that taught criminal law. And he just inspired me. I loved it. I loved the way that he presented it. I loved the way that, that I was able to grasp it and learn it. And, I said in a prior post that it's the rules of the game. So if you want to play the game, you better know the rules. A lot of that comes down to case law. So I'm always digging into that. And you know what? If you're working a graveyard shift, you're going to have probably 3 hours at the end of your shift after you're finished writing reports, hopefully. Once things slow down, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, write your reports. A couple hours left to do nothing but put your nose into a case law book, and it's all free. So many different resources out there. Learn your policies. Learn all of that. It makes you better. It makes you more competent. It makes you a better cop when you're interacting with the public, and allows you to be more creative as well. Ego, set it aside. Don't think you're the baddest and the best, because there's always somebody out there that's badder and better. At the same time, don't think that you're the worst. So you got to fall somewhere in the middle. Be competent. Know your skills. Know your abilities. Don't be afraid to put your nose into a dangerous situation. And that falls in line with courage, which is next. But definitely set ego aside and make decisions that are best for the people that you're interacting with. You can't always make a decision that's best for you and feels good, to you. A competent and a mature officer makes a well-rounded decision that is best for everybody during that interaction. Okay. Courage, yeah, goes back to the same. Be courageous in those decision making. Be courageous in your pursuit to help victims, and don't be scared, be fearful, but don't let that keep you from getting involved in a situation that may be a little bit scary. Hey, that's what we get paid to do. All right, that doesn't mean try to be a hero and put yourself too at risk for death, so to speak. I mean, there's a difference between the cowboy mentality and a coward, right? Courage is right in the middle. So you don't want to be so egotistical and cowboy and cavalier in your efforts that you put other people at risk, but you also don't want to be so much of a coward that you also put people at risk. The courageous person is the one that knows how to make that decision and stay in the middle between the two and find that balance. And so that's where, I would encourage you to fall. Discretion, we did talk about. It's the biggest tool that we have to make an arrest, to cite a person, to not cite a person. I can't tell you how many times I've bought meals for people. I've bought shoes for runaway kids, just to help them out. And you have the ability to do that. So do it. Tenacity, most definitely, in your pursuit of crime, in your pursuit of helping victims, and also the tenacity to stand in the face of adversity and the times that we're living in now. Most definitely takes a tenacious person to strap on the belt and go out every day, handle calls for service, knowing that nobody really likes the cops at this point. And I've seen it, although I'm still a reserve and I only work 2 shifts per month. I see it, I feel it when I go out to the community that I work in. I've had people cuss me out as I'm driving by, flip me off, stare me down. And so it takes a little bit of courage and tenacity to keep going. So you definitely need that. Thirst for knowledge goes back to self-motivation, and I'll say it again. You can't know the policy well enough. You can't know your case law well enough. You have to always study it. 4th Amendment, 5th Amendment, 6th Amendment, the case law is always changing. There's always challenges before the Supreme Court, and you just have to know it. You have to know when those changes come, because if it's a Supreme Court decision, it affects our nation, which means it affects you. It affects every cop nationwide. So you don't want to lose a case on a procedural error. That is nothing but letting a victim down, and that's the worst thing that you can do. Well, second worst. First worst, in my opinion, is to let your partner down. So I think probably the biggest mistake that you can make on patrol, one of the character traits that I always impart on other, younger cops and trainees that I've had is don't ever let your partner down. Don't let your partner not go home. Okay. You better be the one that stays to make sure that your partner goes home at the end of the shift. And, that's just me. That's a personal thing that I really believe in, because, the cops that I work with on my shift, I would do anything for them. And, they all know that. And I think it's something that they respect. And when you have that mutual, respect and love for each other, or you're able to say, no, I'll stay, you go, or, you have to make that decision, right? That courageous decision in a moment that may mean you don't go home, but your partner does. Yeah, that's one to make. So, hope that helps. Get a hold of me if you need help with anything else. I'm around. I'll be posting other videos available on Zoom if you need to, and then always on Canvas messaging. Take care.